The Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I gotta go back now.
Okay, good evening, everyone. We'll call the meeting to order at 7:04 p.m. And at this point, we'll move on to item number 3, public comment. Is there any public comment? Is there any public comment? Okay. Hearing no public comment, we'll move on to item number 4, approved minutes from the January 2nd, 2019 regular meeting. Can I have a motion to do so? Motion by Anne Marie.
Second.
Second by Bob. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye. Motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, item number 5, which is the first Selectmen's report. My budget is complete and is ready to be presented to the Board of Finance upon their request. They will let me know the exact day once the budget schedule is set with all the other town departments. I'll be presenting a budget that keeps the mill rate level for a 4th year in a row that will still allow us to move the town forward in key strategic areas like technology and our rolling stock and infrastructure. As you will hear shortly, Brian Asteriak will have a great deal of information on the road projects that have been completed over the last couple of years and also what he projects his work over the next 3 years. During fiscal year 20, we'll be addressing the 3 final buildings of major concern to the town of Seymour. Those buildings are the Community Center, Bungay School, and 98 Bank Street. All 3 buildings are in need of major investment to maximize their use. We are currently in the process of understanding the future needs of the town's services and functions that utilize these buildings to determine if we should be moving forward with renovations and repairs or if we should be looking at other options. I expect this process will be ongoing for the next several months and will provide updates as they become available. As part of the discussion, we have reached out to our finance team to determine the impact that certain bond levels would have on the town's budget over the next 10 years. So we specifically looked at $10 million and $15 million bond issues. Update on the building project that's going on in town. Work has been temporarily halted due to concerns with how the contractor has been handling the project. Work at the library will be restarted in the next few days and should be completed in the next week or 2. Once that work is completed, a final cleaning will take place prior to all areas being retested to confirm everything is as expected based on the contract. At Town Hall, work will remain stopped until a cleaning crew is brought in this weekend to address certain concerns that have been brought up. Once the cleaning takes place, testing will be redone to establish a baseline and work will resume as contracted. Once work is completed, another cleaning will be done. Cost of all cleaning will be the responsibility of the contractor, and I will provide updates as things progress. Okay, item number 6 is presentation of the volleyball citations. Are all the parents that left to move their cars back? I mean, obviously, if they're not here, they're not going to say anything, but does anybody notice any parent that's missing? No, we're all here? Okay, so with that, I would like State Rep Nicole Clares Dietrich to please come forward and
Hello. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to congratulate the Seymour girls volleyball team on their 2nd state championship. I feel like it should be many more. For some reason, I thought we were up much higher, but that's to come. So excited to see what can happen in the future with you girls. You all have a bright future. I know we have some amazing scholar athletes on this team. You've done the hard work, the blood, the sweat, the tears, I'm sure, maybe some from Coach Fed on occasion. But thank you, girls, thank you, coaches, thank you, parents and family, for all the hard work you put in supporting these wonderful scholar athletes. So I will read, thank you, I will read one citation through its entirety. Some of you have done this before because softball does have many. So the State of Connecticut General Assembly official citation introduced by myself, Senator Eric Berthel, Senator Kevin Kelly. Be it hereby known to all that the Connecticut General Assembly hereby offers its sincere congratulations to the Seymour High School volleyball team, winning the Connecticut Interscholastic Athletic Conference 2018 Girls Volleyball Tournament. The entire delegation is honored that you represent Seymour High School and our beloved community of Seymour with exuberance, dedication, and pride. You should be proud of this accomplishment, and we wish you many years of robust competition and continued success. The entire membership extends its very best wishes on this memorable occasion and expresses the hope for continued success. On the 17th day of November 2018, State Capitol, Hartford, Connecticut, President Pro Tem Martin Looney, Speaker of the House Josh Zimowitz, Secretary of State Denise Merrill. And our first recipient is Maya La Roba. Sorry.
And we'll do one big picture at the end with the whole team and everybody. But if parents, if you want to come forward as your student athlete is getting the award and have you take a picture, you're certainly welcome to do so.
Megan Kondo. Jenna Baxter. Isabella Calabro. Faith Rousseau. Colby Sarwich. Is that J.C. Casciello? Stephanie Ferrara. Jasmine Franco. Alyssa Casciello. Erin Lafrieri. Am I saying it correctly? I'm sorry. Catherine Reganey. Emma Russo. Gabrielle Rossetti. Catherine Lucera. How do I say? Is that a K? Kusira. Is she not here? She's not.
Yeah, clap for her.
Mackenzie Sarowich. And Victoria Sampieri. All right, let's get a picture. Everybody up.
Okay, so the girls want to line up just kind of along the table with Nicole, and then Karen goes up front too. You're welcome. Oops, sorry. That was cool. What a waste with my elbow. All right, Rory. All right. Roy's going to do panoramic. Look at him go. Thank you, girls.
Good job.
Nice job. I'll do my best. Tell me, it all comes down to the dumb questions.
You're waiting right ankle deep.
Brian, one more thing before you. One more thing, and then you go. Folks, while we absolutely appreciate you staying, you absolutely do not have to. So please don't think it's disrespectful if you get up and walk out.
And they all.
Because the seven of us are kind of wondering why you're all still sitting there.
Where's
Thank you very
Colby
much.
going?
Congratulations,
Sit down.
girls.
Yeah, I did.
Great flight, nice gesture.
Finley, you're out. Can she vote?
Okay,
She 18?
Almost.
say a few words.
Go ahead, Kevin.
We cap it at 2 minutes here.
Yeah. He hasn't even gotten through the first sentence in 2 minutes.
You did.
I was very proud of you, Kevin.
See you, Petey.
He did.
Did a good job, Kev.
Good night, everybody. Thank you. Okie dokie. All right, so I'd like to make a motion to add to the agenda discussion and possible action regarding requests from Mission 22.
So moved.
Motion by Anne Marie, second by, who was that?
Al.
Motion by Al. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Next item on the agenda, discussion and possible action regarding requests from Mission 22. Anne Marie brought to my attention a group called Mission 22 that does work to try to assist veterans that come back that are dealing with whether it be PTSD or TBI issues. And the work that this group does, I think, is very admirable. In your packets, you all would have letters which you can reach through, but also from the group, the Connecticut State co-leader, AJ Bordas, am I saying that right, AJ? Is here. So I'm going to ask AJ to come forward, tell us a little bit about the organization, a little bit about his request, then we could ask any questions that we may have, and then just kind of take it from there. So AJ, if you wouldn't mind just talking into the microphone so everybody can hear you at home. I'll make push it on the bottom. Yeah.
Thank you very much, First Selectman and Town of Seymour, for having me here. My name is AJ Bordas. I am the state co-leader for Mission 22. Rather than going right into what Mission 22 does, I think it's rather critical for people to fully understand what exactly PTS is, what TBI is. So if you'll just indulge me for just a few moments. This is Staff Sergeant Brian Curtis Jr. He is active reserves with the Guard. He has served over in Iraq multiple times. He is suffering from PTS and has some pretty horrific stories. He's going to explain a little bit about what he's gone through, as well as what his platoon has gone through, and then we'll go into a little bit about Mission 22 specifically and the request.
Thank you. First Selectman, honorees. PTSD is a very serious thing. It's anywhere from having nightmares to having suicidal thoughts. I myself have served in Iraq and Afghanistan. In Iraq, I did convoy security, and Afghanistan, I did line haul with self-security. I've seen a lot of gruesome things that I don't even think our EMS or nurses have seen. I deal with a lot mentally, and I really don't have a way to let it out. So I kind of just built things up, and I'd never had a resource or friends that would actually stop to listen to me and listen to what I've been through. Every day it's a struggle. day in and day out, and I've learned to cope with it by helping other veterans out. I had taken a course in the military called ASSIST, Applied Suicide Intervention Training. And what that does is it's like a mediator. So I kind of assess the situation, and if it's bad, then obviously the police have to get involved. But if it's not, if it's something I can handle and I can sit down and listen to what this young vet or older vet has gone through, I can kind of listen to them, give them some advice. Most importantly, 99.9% of the time, they actually admit that they want to just go get help. And I go out of my way and I bring them to the hospital to get help. And then I always follow up and I always make sure that they're still doing good, and still to this day. I have lost 4 people. I've lost 2 friends, I've lost one of my own soldiers, and I've lost a cousin to suicide. So it impacts me a lot. I can't count how many people I've saved. That number is, I don't even know. But I always keep the number of people that I lost, because I feel like I could have better impacted them. So I'm going to hand it back over to AJ so he can talk about Mission 22 and some of the things that we offer to help out.
Thanks, Brian. Appreciate that. So as you just heard directly from Brian, unfortunately, PTS and TBI is very, very real. Unfortunately, it is not something that most people have heard of beyond the simple letters as they come up on the screen. In Naugatuck, right now, we are, actually, let me back up just a little bit. Mission 22 is a national organization that's directly trying to combat the rising suicide rate. So back in 2008, the VA conducted a study and found that over 22 veterans were committing suicide every single day. They were induced by PTS and TBI. This is a documented fact. You're welcome to visit the VA to find the numbers. The latest numbers, as of 2015, was the last study, brought that number down to just over 20. So we've gone in about 8 years from just over 22 to just over 20. Nowhere near enough. We've got a long way to go. What Mission 22 does is, through several different venues, try to provide support and outreach to the veterans of our community to get them more involved in their own lives, as well as the lives of other veterans, just like Brian does. There are everything from social outreach, which is what myself, as well as other veterans, do through Mission 22 and other organizations. I want to be very clear that I don't care who anyone supports. Mission 22, 22 Kill. There's 1,000 other veteran organizations that do what this does. I just happen to support Mission 22. Whichever one you want to support, I don't care. Just get your voice heard so that people understand that there's help available. With Mission 22 specifically, we offer comprehensive wellness programs, war detox programs. A lot of people don't realize that war is actually addicting. The adrenaline is a chemical within your body that increases dopamine levels and other levels to the point where when you come home, you are no longer stable chemically. You are literally addicted to the adrenaline rush of war. My brother-in-law, when he came home from Iraq, his mother found him under his bed more times than not when he was trying to sleep. Currently, he's been arrested multiple times. He has a lifetime ban from Home Depot and Lowe's. He is a heroin addict with 3 children that wants to kill himself. He's the reason I do this. You look at him walking by the street, you'd never know it. He was addicted to war. He couldn't figure out how to reacclimate to our lifestyle as calm civilian life. It's a much different world for us. And I don't expect anyone here to truly understand that unless you've served, but it is something that's very serious. They offer Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, health and housing access, horse therapy, holistics, service dogs. The list goes on and on. I actually left handouts for you right up front for you to see the different types of services. What we've done in Naugatuck, Naugatuck is where I'm from, we have started a major hike. We call it the 22 for 22 hike. It happens the last September the last Saturday in September, and we talk to this event, to the Mission 22. We talk to the PTS, and every year we dedicate our hike to a veteran we've lost in Naugatuck. We've made local papers. I brought a couple of them with me. Connecticut Cruise News, which is a car show that helps us out quite a bit. Citizen News, which is just our local paper over in the Beacon Falls area, that have helped cover this. We've been on TV for local public access and radio, trying to get the word out and spread the news of what's going on. The reason I came here, ultimately, is to quite literally beg Seymour in any way, shape, or form that you might be able to help. When I approached Mayor Pete Hess with regards to doing something for Mission 22 3 years ago, I had no idea what to do. I've never done anything like this. Brian and I were collecting funds, but we needed to do more. We needed to raise awareness. We needed to scream from the rooftops. And Mayor Pete gave us that platform to be able to do that. He jumped in with both feet, and we now currently have a 22-kilometer hike that's considered intermediate. We have people coming to us from Michigan, from Delaware, from Maine, all over to hike our trail because they're hearing about it. They're coming specifically because it's a Mission 22 hike to help. Afterwards, we have a festival. Last year, we had fireworks. We had a live bald eagle. We had a national rock band there. It was pretty wild. Huge endeavor, not something I would ever ask another town to do. Okay, it involves everything: fire, police, parks and rec, the whole 9 yards. What I'm simply asking is if there's any way that Seymour might be able to help us as well. Anne Marie and I have known each other for a lot longer than either one of us would care to state. And she and I were at a family picnic, and we started talking about Mission 22. And it's very much a passion for me. As we talked about it, she mentioned that this might be something that we should bring forth to Seymour. And I told her, I said, I'm not sure how. And she said, don't worry, I'll take care of it. And here we are today. So thank you very much for giving me this platform, for giving us this platform to be able to speak. I guess at this point, I'll open it up to any questions. One of the ideas that we did have was possibly doing a 2.2 mile run walk at the high school on the track. You know, have kids collect sponsorship funds. I can get a few sponsors to help take care of some things on the side. Maybe do a raffle that day. Any idea is not off the table. Even something as simple as getting the word out in a local paper. All it takes is one vet. I actually had a vet. I'm going to tell you one more story and then I'm done, I promise. I was asked to I was asked to judge a motorcycle competition. I'm an avid rider. So I went as Mission 22 and got there, saw some beautiful bikes, and a gentleman walked up to me and started talking about Mission 22. And then he started talking about his daughter and the challenges he was facing with his wife. They were having a rather nasty divorce. And the words started just turning dark. And I started getting nervous. I didn't quite understand the direction we were going. And then he asked me, he says, do you own a gun? I told him, yes, actually, yes, I do. He's like, and then his eyes just went blank. He says, I do too. He says, I want to go home right now and use it. And I asked him, what do you mean? He says, I don't want to be here anymore. He says, I came home and there's nobody there for me except my little girl, and my wife wants to take her from me. He says, if she's not there, then why should I be? I apologize that my voice is cracking, but it's one of those things that I can't relay without having an emotional reaction, because nobody deserves to be in that dark of a place, ever. I don't care what you did, especially when you fought for our country to become what we are, to be able to free other people and let them have freedoms. You should never feel this way. He and I talked for hours. We prayed. And he and I are both Christians. We prayed. And we prayed hard that day. I'm still in touch with him. We talk once a month. He's still alive. He's still here. He got help. Brian helped get him help through the VA. The VA does a lot, but they just can't do enough. They don't know enough yet. They will. They're getting there. There's more funding coming, but it's just not enough yet. So with that, does anybody have any questions for me so I don't kill your entire evening?
Questions from any board members? No? Well, first, AJ and Brian, thanks for coming to present this to us. I don't want to speak for everybody on the board, but I think we agree that what these soldiers go through is something that deserves our full attention. Anne Marie has volunteered to spearhead something in Seymour. Tomorrow I'll reach out to Mayor Cassetti, Mayor Loretti, and Mayor Zekin, and Antonia Derby and Shelton, see if maybe we can get a Valley type thing going.
That would be amazing.
You know, I'm very close with Mayor Hess, so I'll reach out to him as well for some ideas.
He'll vouch for me. He's been an amazing advocate for us. I spoke to Mayor Loretti briefly at one point. One of the things I want to make abundantly clear is this is 100% nonpartisan, not by, not parts, not, this is nonpartisan, this is a humanitarian issue. So one of the things I'm kind of hoping, and maybe you can help bring this up, is this hike, not necessarily to do the hike, it's pretty intense, but for the festival, maybe we can get a bunch of mayors together and stand in solidarity for the issue in Naugatuck on the last Saturday in September.
Yeah, I don't think that would be an issue. Just have Pete reach out to all of us, and I think we'll all come. I wouldn't be surprised if he couldn't get all 19 mayors and first selectmen from our council of governments there. So
That would be amazing. I'll talk with Pete, and whatever help Anne Marie might be able to provide, I'd appreciate.
yeah. So Anne Marie will be your point person, and she'll just kind of keep the board in the loop of what you're thinking and what might work, and we'll kick some things around, and and then we'll kind of go from there.
That's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Really
No,
appreciate it.
I do
Just-
one
go ahead.
quick question. Do you have a 503C currently?
Yes. Mission 22 is a 503C. Whether the donations come to me, I will obviously mail them for the town, or if you want, if you feel more comfortable sending them directly to Mission 22, I can provide you whatever information you need. On the national level, we actually had members, the director as well as one of the co-founders, come to our hike last year because of what was going on. So we have full support all the way around.
So AJ, I also want to point out, as you know, our state rep Nicole Claridis teacher is here as well. She represents Beacon Falls, Derby, and Seymour, and she will gladly help you in any way possible.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Representative Urbimbis has been very much involved with us, as well as Senator Logan, both. So I would love to speak with you as well.
So I'll get with you. I'm going to meet with a couple other selectmen and see if they want to get involved, as long as Nicole, and we'll get together and we'll come up with something for September. So probably maybe get together beginning of February to start putting something together.
Okay, that'd be great.
See if we can reach out to the Board of Ed and see if maybe we can get something going in the schools as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm sure we can beat up some vendors for some donations, too.
Absolutely.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen, and thank you very much
Thank
for
you
your service.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, item number 7, discussion take possible action with town engineer regarding road program. Brian, the floor is yours. Interesting. You can go freestyle. Nicole broke it.
Good evening. For the record, Brian Asteriak. I'm the appointed town engineer, professional engineer and land surveyor. I'm going to start tonight just giving a little refresh and a background.
There you go.
I normally don't have to go up, I have to push down. So I've been doing this job for about 5 years. In the beginning of 2016, I took over some of the responsibilities of my predecessor. That year, we finished a few of the roads that were going to get repaved and redone, again from my predecessor. We also started a road assessment program, which I'm sure it's nothing you want to flip through right now, but have in front of you. For each of you, I also put together this little packet, which would be more pertinent for this presentation. I stop talking and I'm not in front of the microphone. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Well, my mother will just yell at you directly.
Yeah.
So I'll go through this quickly.
Bigger glasses.
So the large book that you have in front of you is our full road assessment. All three of them are the same. One I leave with Mr. Miller, and the other two I hold on to. So we worked on assessing all the roads in 2016. We continue to update that on an annual basis. At the end of the year, I re-release it with the findings and the work that we've done. What you see here, which is also on, I think, the 5th or 6th page, it's a folded sheet. This is just a map of the town that shows currently, as of the end of the year, what the roads are graded currently. So in green, we have A, blue is B, yellow C, orange D, and red is F. So I don't know if you can really see it on that small plan, but you can get the idea. I'll go through some of the statistics in a second. So once we did get that assessment done, there was obviously an issue of a bond of $4.5 million that we determined how to prioritize the roads that needed the most amount of work. We used the condition of the roads, we used the use of the roads. Some of the roads that were not quite as bad as others were bumped up in the priority list because they were in higher use. One example is we did Bungay Road last year. Wasn't quite as bad as some of the worst roads in town, but it's a heavily used road. We put out 2 bid packages, one for a full depth reconstruction, one for a mill and pave. That was in 2016. And then over the past 2 years, we've gone ahead and gone through about $4 million in road reconstruction or road repaving. So, in the past 3 years, to give you some results of what we've done, and this includes some of the work that my predecessor did as well. So this goes back about 7 or 8 years. He had, I believe it was $5 million before me in a road bond program. So in the last 7 to 8 years, we have resurfaced around 20 miles of roads. To give you some perspective, we have 82.5 miles of road in town. That includes a mill and repave, which is taking out the top 2 inches and putting in a new surface. A full depth reconstruction. My predecessor also did some heat in place, but in general, we redid about 20 miles of road. We've taken out all the F roads at this point. There are no F roads in town. And we've reduced the graded D roads from, we were at about 12% when I took over, and we're down to about 6% now. Currently, over 60% of the roads in Seymour are graded either A or B. So we've made a lot of progress. What percent was that? 60%. The other thing that I was doing both years is what I call heavy patching. And as opposed to a full road reconstruction or mill and pave, there's areas, especially in the high-use roads, that we decided to just take sections of the road, take out the top course, the top 2 inches, and repave. So we did that on Mountain, Old Ansonia, a little Skokerat, Pearl, some of those high-use roads that just needed a little uplift because we just didn't have the funds to redo the entire roads. And they've gone mostly from C roads to B roads at this point. The difference between that and the reconstruction that we've been doing is that this is more of a 5 to 10 year fix as opposed to a 10 to 20 year fix. The last thing that we did, which I'm sure everybody has noticed, is we spent a lot of time working downtown. So we redid some of the traffic patterns. Obviously, First Street and Columbus Street has been changed to one-way going to the west. That allowed us to increase the amount of parking that's available downtown. This year, we went ahead with a second phase, which was replacing all the curbs on Bank and Columbus, and also adding sidewalks on Columbus to connect the public parking lot with the rest of downtown. I think it came out great. We repaved almost every road in downtown over the past 2 years. Obviously, we've restriped. The curbs in general, some people were asking why we decided to go with granite curbs downtown. The curbs on Bank Street were concrete, and they're maybe about 20 or 30 years old, and they were completely eroded away. They needed to be replaced. So when we decided to replace them, we went with granite. Granite's about 25% more expensive, although they'll last 70 to 100 years. So we're pretty much done with Bank Street for our lifetimes, which was the goal. On the, I think it's the second to last page of your packet. You can't miss it. It's a big yellow sheet. It's two-sided. Anything in yellow is a road that we've done in the past 7 to 8 years that has a completely new surface on it. The orange are the ones that I did what I called the heavy patching. So those are the ones that we did large sections of the road to just get us through the next 5 to 10 years. But you'll see that pretty much any road that you see here has been bumped from either a C or D or even F up to an A grade. You want me to go through the whole presentation, or do you want to?
No.
You want to?
Would you, anybody want to ask
I'm going to move on to
questions
the next thing.
while we're going, or?
I have a couple more things, so
Go ahead, keep going.
I'm going to switch topics. The other thing, this is more of a maintenance thing. The other thing that I've been working on is restriping the town. So before I was around, we hadn't striped in a while. Last year, I threw on some additional striping to the road reconstruction contract. This year, we actually hired a roadway striper to go out and do a large portion of the town. So I have a plan here to get the entire town restriped within the next 3 to 4 years. What you see in pink is what we striped last year. What you see in blue is what we striped this year. Yellow is next year, and green is the following year. This may change depending on budgets and stuff. But we basically did all the major roads this year, plus the northeast section of the town. And I'm hoping with that budget, we can get the rest of it done in the next 3 years. Depending on the deterioration, we may need to switch some of these priority lists, just because new pavement doesn't hold paint quite as well as old pavement, especially when it's striped right after the asphalt's put down. But either way, we have a plan in place. And the last thing for maintenance that we've been doing is crack sealing. This is going to become very important. Hadn't really done a lot of crack sealing that I know of before me. Last year we did a small trial contract, and we did pink, anything in pink here. Obviously there's not much on there. This year we did what's in blue. The point of crack sealing is that we've had a budget of about $50,000 for these last 2 years. We just redid about 20 miles of roads in the past 7 years. Crack sealing becomes pertinent 5 to 10 years after you pave a road. So our budget for crack sealing, if we want to maintain these roads, is going to have to be looked at and increased over the next few years. Probably not for another 2 or 3 years, but if we want to maintain these roads properly, then the crack sealing needs to be looked at in the next 5 to 10 years. A couple other things that we're working on. We have the lot SIP program. We have 2 grants that has been, we have letters of commitment for lot SIP. One is Holbrook Road. I took that over the summer. The design is 99%. It's heading towards third-party review. Just to give you an update, Holbrook Road will be reconstructed pretty much from scratch from the Oxford Town Line to the Rotary. The original estimate for that, my predecessor, was around 3.8 million. I've redesigned it for a variety of reasons, and there's a lot of new design elements that came out. My current estimate's up to 5.5 million. The COG, I've talked to the COG about that. It does need to be reapproved. I don't think that's going to be an issue, but we do have to go through all the administrative work to get that to bid. So I'm hopeful that that will happen before the summer, but we're dealing with the state here, and unfortunately a long administrative process. So we're ready to go pretty much, but we got to go through all those little hurdles. And the other thing that has been approved through the COG and DOT for LOTSIP is Westchurch, Bungay, and Botsford. So we put in an application earlier this year. We got the letter of commitment to reconstruct, realign, do some improvements from the Historical Society up to the high school. The road itself will be improved. It'll be realigned, and we'll also be including sidewalks, connecting all the sidewalks so that you'll be able to walk from the Historical Society to the high school. So that is currently under design, although we've been focusing on Holbrook. Survey's done. We're going to be working on the design this year. So hopefully in 2020, that'll be going to construction. So with those two construction projects, most of our major roads are pretty well taken care of. We did a lot of work on Mountain Road. That's another one that was a high use. Bungay Road was a high use one. Pearl, we did some work. Pearl's one of those roads that probably can use a little work, but we're keeping an eye on it. And then Old Ansonia as well, but we've been doing some heavy patching up there. From the bond money, the accounting is still being worked out upstairs, but it's looking like we have around $200,000 left. Your last sheet is my updated recommended priority list. I haven't made any decisions on this. Well, I first have to find out what the accounting is, but if we're between 200 and 400,000, which is what we're thinking, we got to make some decisions on where we want to focus that money. Essentially, in my opinion, the top 10 could be interchanged, any of them. They all need it. So we could either focus on a few roads, we can focus on a bunch of roads, we can do heavy patching. It's really kind of up to the town and a discussion that we all should have. That really does it for me. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
You mentioned the restructuring going from the historical center to the high school. Does that include, because there's some drainage issues going on there with because you can see when the water hangs out and there's ice on the side of the road. Is that included in
That's
that?
all part of it.
All part of the restructuring?
Yeah, so the existing surface will be completely removed and regraded, repitched, crowned. Additional drainage structures will be put in. But to get to the letter of commitment, it's all preliminary analysis, so it's just a quick preliminary design saying, okay, these are the major issues that we have to look at. Then you have to actually get into the design. The numbers that I was quoting, I didn't mention, is fully paid for by the state. What the town has to pay for is the design of it and the application. But still, that's a small amount compared
Yeah,
to
just
what they're
curious
actually
if that
putting
part
in.
of the restructuring
But it is. It absolutely is. The section, the application was structured so that minor improvements were going to be done from the Historical Society to the corner at Ryder. And the major reason for that's just going to be like a mill and pave and maybe some realignment of the curbs, but not some major work, merely because the turn there does not conform to state DOT standards. So if we kind of reduce the design work, then they usually let us slide on that. And the other section is up at the end of Botsford, Brookfield, from Brookfield to Great Hill Road. That's just going to be a mill and replace as well. And we can repitch things, but I don't think there's big drainage issues. From the high school to Ryder is a full reconstruction.
Yeah, that's what
Yeah.
it is, actually. Okay. What other questions?
I have one. The crack ceiling budget you usually get every year is around $50,000.
Yeah, it's 50, and sometimes it gets to 60, depending on the police.
And you're saying that you would, I read in here the reason that you want to do more crack ceiling for those roads that are being replaced. What do you see the number being? Where do you need it to get to? And you said over the next 5 to 10 years?
5 to 10 years.
So that's
So
what?
a typical reconstructed road's going to need crack sealing between 4 and 6 years after, because it just starts in the winter, starts cracking. So I would expect, probably not next year. I think next year is a $50,000 or $60,000 budget's fine. The year after, it might have to go up by $10,000 or $20,000 every year for a few years, depending on how much work we do here.
So ideally, you'd like to see a budget of $80,000, $90,000 a year
In
just
5
for
years.
crack ceiling?
In 5 years, yeah.
Or is that off? Is it more?
No, I would say, let's see, if I did the math, in 3 years, you should be at 70, 75. In 4 years, 80. 5 years, 90. And just keep going up by 5 or 10,000 for at least 8 or 9 years. Just because there's going to be more and more to do, more and more surface area to do.
Right, the plan is to continue to ramp that up over time.
It's cheaper to do crack sealing than it is a full reconstruction, like we've been doing.
Thank you.
Road number 4 on your list in figure 1, the LoSiP, you have Clinton Road
Mhm.
needs reclassification. Clinton Road, if I'm not mistaken, that's the road that runs from Seymour into Ansonia.
That's right.
Over by the Beaverbrook,
By the dam.
by the dam.
So yeah, just to explain what I did there. So I thought that would be a perfect lot SIP application because it interconnects 2 towns. It's a heavily used road. Unfortunately, it's not considered an urban collector, which is the minimum classification that it needs to be eligible for lot SIP. I'm wondering if I can reclassify it. Clinton Road gets the most amount of complaints than any other road ever since we've redone all the roads. But most of the complaints are coming from Ansonia residents that I know of. So it needs to be done, without a doubt, and it needs some work, but nobody lives on that road. So it's kind of hasn't been bumped up in the priority list because we'd rather use those funds for people that are actually using the road to get to their homes or getting or high-use roads. So that's why it hasn't been jumped. It's a great lot SIP program, but we can't do it until we finish at least one of the other lot SIP applications because they only allow 2 in the hopper. So in that time, we might be able to reclassify it.
Katie, any other questions, anyone? No? Brian, anything else you want to add?
No, I just love some feedback, maybe not tonight, but in general, of where we should be focusing our efforts. Like I said, there's plenty of roads that still need some work. But if you or anybody else feels as though one road or a section of town needs a little more attention, then feel free to let me know, and I'll take a look at it.
Once we finalize all the numbers with the amount of money we have left, I think at that point we'll have you come back. Just meet with the selectmen. We'll come up with a plan for the roads we're going to address in 2019.
Sure.
So just give an idea of what needs to be done. Everybody good? Excellent. Thank you, Ron.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. That's fine. Okay, item number 9. Oh, no, excuse me, item number 8, discussion, take possible action regarding potential reimbursement for Rob VanEgghen. Okay, in your package, you have the minutes from our meeting from Tuesday, November 21st, 2017. And I will refer you to page 4. Actually, Brian, maybe you can weigh in on this as well. Item number 11. which was discussion take possible action regarding VanEgghen sidewalk reimbursements. At that point, the resident lives on, thank you, God, Woodside Avenue. And, you know, had just purchased a house, was redoing the home, and wanted to redo the sidewalk in front of the home. Work was done, the appropriate 3 quotes were gotten, paid the contractor, and the town reimbursed the resident 1/3, as we have done in the past. This past year, we initially had no intentions whatsoever to do sidewalks on Woodside, but as we were doing the repaving, Brian brought to my attention the fact that the sidewalks were pretty bad, and that if we did them now, we would be substantially better off, as opposed to waiting and trying to do them at some other time where we'd actually have to cut a foot or 2 into the road to do the sidewalks, which would essentially ruin the integrity of the paving. So we went ahead and we did all of the sidewalks on that road. So the resident has reached out saying, listen, you know, you paid for all the other sidewalks, yet I paid for mine. Is it possible to have the other 2/3 paid as well? So I wanted to bring this to the board, have a discussion, and make a decision as to how we would want to move forward. Again, Brian is here to answer any questions that we may have, and then Mr. VanEgghen is here as well. Which one? It's a separate attachment. Yeah, we don't have that. You guys don't have this?
It's page 4.
Circle.
It's not on the actual minutes. Oh, okay. Okay, so the amount, the total cost of replacement was $4,500. We have already provided $1,500 reimbursement to the resident. So the amount outstanding would be $3,000 if we were to take action on that. So what are your questions, comments, thoughts? And then, Rich, you can certainly weigh in as well if you have any. Anyone have any opinions one way or the other?
Well, haven't we reimbursed people in the past for repairing their sidewalks?
I don't think we've ever come across this situation, to be quite honest with you. I'll run back.
I don't think I know of anybody that's ever been reimbursed. The reality is there's an ordinance in town that says if we replace the sidewalk in front of your house, you have to reimburse us. And I'm saying us as the town. I don't think anybody has ever enforced that, because I don't think you'd get a lot of good press with that.
No.
The one thing, I don't really have an opinion on this. The one thing I might mention, I think there's 2 residents on that road, I mean. And maybe the owner can confirm it or say that I'm off base here. I think there's 2 residents that have redone their sidewalks on that road. So if you approve one, don't be surprised if the next one comes back and asks for it as well.
In the same time frame.
Yeah, all in the last probably 18 months or a year, I think.
Okay.
And the road really looks nice. Between their work and our work,
Right.
it's come along, I think.
Okay. I didn't know that. All right, so what other questions? I don't want to give opinion yet until
Yeah.
everybody's had a chance to weigh in, then I'll give my opinion.
You want to
And
let Rob speak?
then, Rob, if you want to add. You folks wouldn't be the other family that... Oh, okay. We're going to take a shot. Yeah. So I don't know, Rob, if you want to come up and just maybe share some information, or just make sure you're talking to the mic, or my mother will yell at you.
Hi,
Yeah, name
Robert
and address.
VanEgghen, 22 Woodside Avenue. I'm ecstatic about all the road work that has happened throughout the town. It's phenomenal. And yet, when I came through, I was told after I was doing the sidewalk about the reimbursement, and that went flawlessly, so that was great. The neighbor, I have a 100-foot stretch, and my neighbor to the immediate left. I think it's the guy who redid the Henny Petty, bought that house. I bought the house 5 years ago, and right then he flipped that house months after I bought mine. He has a 50-foot stretch of sidewalk, so 150-foot section was done altogether. His 5 years ago, mine end of 2017 when I put in the application.
Right.
Yeah, so because we all pay taxes, and those taxes have gone to all of the roads and all of the sidewalks, I was hoping for something where maybe that $3,000, if nothing else, could get applied to my taxes for the next. Not necessarily a $3,000 check to me, but I paid out $3,000 more than everyone else had for their sidewalk. So I was looking for something like that. You guys want to give me $3,000? It's just going to go to more beautification of that street. I was kind of hoping that doing my property would help kick off other people. I tried to get my guy to give quotes to all of the other, which I'm sure you can talk to what horrible disrepair those sidewalks were in. Really dangerous. So luckily for them, they didn't get around to calling my guy back to do any quotes or anything like that, and they got theirs done as part of the process. So that's all it is. Thank you.
Thank you, Rob. Okay. So what is the board's pleasure? Anyone want to go first?
So I just want to make sure I'm clear. So, but for Mr. VanEgghen repairing his sidewalk on his own before the town came in and decided to do everybody else's, he would have had his done as part of the town project.
Correct.
All right. So
Correct.
I think it's a no-brainer to give him some kind of credit here.
I don't disagree with you, but I just don't want to arbitrarily start giving out money.
Well, I was going to say, we have to watch the timeline, because now you have the other individual who you mentioned 5 years ago
Yeah.
did that, and we have to make sure we clip that at a specific time frame.
No, understood.
Yeah.
Can't go on forever.
Stefan, go ahead.
20 years.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think we set a time frame. I think in this individual case, Rob was pretty explicitly told that was not going to be happening, the town replacing his sidewalk, so
By
it's,
me.
I think it's incumbent on the town to make him whole on this. Yeah, no brainer, but we should probably set a parameters about how far back this credit would go.
Yeah, and the doing of this sidewalk was just kind of on the fly conversation between Brian and I and what ultimately would be best for the entire street. And to Stefan's point, I did tell Rob, we're not doing the sidewalks. We're going to try to do the road, but we're not going to touch the sidewalks. And, less than a year later, there we are doing the sidewalks.
So he lied to you, essentially.
Typical politician. Typical politician.
I can't get a break this week.
I agree that we should reimburse him for doing the roads, but I also agree that we should put a time limit on it, maybe 2 years.
Okay, let's hear what Kurt has to say. I'm sure
Well, no,
it's been
Rich
discussed,
is smart. No,
No?
nothing about
Oh,
a
it
time
hasn't?
limit.
Oh, no
No,
time
not about a time
limit?
limit. The time limit is new, so
right? Okay.
I want to see what Rich is.
Well, you've been operating under a policy for as long as I've been here, and before that, from what I understand. This is a very unique set of facts, so I think just as in zoning, there's hardship and there are situations when you vary the policy to fit unique factual circumstances. I think this makes all the sense in the world, so.
What is your thought on keeping it a case-by-case basis? Or should we apply, at least when we vote, let's say, to add a specific time frame, that it has to be within 2 years, 3 years, and just kind of set that precedent now? You have an opinion on that, or?
I think you would want to make it proximate in time. I don't think you want to have reimbursement claims going back a significant period of time. And again, if a sidewalk is done close in time to all of the other sidewalks being done and paid for by the town, then they're going to look relatively uniform. They're going to be in good shape. I'll defer to Brian on that. It's not my expertise, but through observation, the further back you go, it may not be quite the same, have the same life, and so Brian, what do you think? A couple years?
Let me just try to understand what you're thinking about. Is that just in general, anybody who puts in their sidewalk?
Well, you don't want to set a precedent
Right.
We don't want,
we're making this exception because of the unique circumstance.
I paid for my
without-
sidewalk 8 years ago,
You're right.
and now you've redone all the sidewalks, I want my money back.
Well-
I don't think that's reasonable. I think Rob's claim of less than a year is extremely reasonable.
I don't think I've done any other sidewalks in front of anybody's house in the past 3 years, so.
right, but
Yeah,
it
but
may not
somebody-
be you,
something
but
was
it may be
mentioned.
somebody else, down the road.
Oh.
5 years down the road, 8 years down the road.
I would,
I think once we set a precedent, we should probably
Well,
define
I'm
it.
not sure it's necessarily a precedent. If
I
we
would-
make sure it's clear that this is a unique case.
Right.
yeah, I would be worried about making a precedent because I don't know who's put in sidewalks over the past 2 years. And this is a very unique situation, I would think.
Well, I think it's definitely unique now, but as we go forward, I think an emphasis on new roads is going to be replacing sidewalks as well, especially where we can. So the more sidewalks we replace, the more opportunity for this to not be a unique circumstance will present itself. But with that said, I mean, we basically judge these kind of things on a case-by-case basis every time we reimburse people for something.
Well, I'm just thinking of Bungay, because if we're going to put sidewalks from the Historical Society all the way up to Bungay, we're obviously going to either reuse some of the existing sidewalk. Is the plan to just reuse what's there?
I'm going to reuse as much as I can.
Okay. So that's the only one that would, because we might run into that situation as early as next year.
Well, my goal is to identify which ones need to be replaced so that they're all at least in good condition.
Right.
So that someone doesn't have to actually replace any part of their sidewalk in front of them while we're replacing all the others around them.
Okay.
So at the end of the project, my goal is to have good sidewalks in front of everybody, so there wouldn't be a reimbursement unless someone's, done it in the next 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I think part of the issue is that people should know a little bit more now going forward that their sidewalk may be replaced by the town eventually. Rob's is definitely unique in the fact where he was very proactive about seeing what the town could do for him or what the town might be doing in the future, and what came to be wasn't necessarily what he was told. So that is unique. That probably won't happen, I wouldn't imagine, very often.
Right.
I
So
don't know.
as you touch those
Yeah, I guess we don't
houses
probably
on
need a precedent.
Bungay, they might be doing their driveway. Right, and as they're doing the driveway, they might hire a guy to do the sidewalk to fix or
Right.
repair. That's why you want to make sure that they know up front, so we don't get a bunch of people coming back and saying, hey, can I have reimbursement for that? So I think we do have to have some type of timeline or set rule of how we handle this on a repeated basis to make it more repeatable.
Well, I think the unique situation here is, Mr. VanEgghen specifically came in and asked and was told they were not being replaced. And within a year, the decision was changed and it was being replaced. So I do agree with Al that the unique situation here it can stand alone.
Who else? Anyone?
No,
Karen? Go
I'd
ahead.
just like to say,
I don't understand why we need a sidewalk from the Historical Society to the high school.
Well, we're not on that right now.
Yeah, we're
No,
not.
that's a different topic. Don't.
Okay, well,
Let's
I'll
stay
go
focused on-
back to that.
Yeah, you definitely, but just hold it for right now. Just because it'll muddy it too much. Let's get through this one first, then we can come
All
back to
right.
that one.
Okay.
So, any other thoughts or issues?
Could there be some kind of process put in place if somebody wanted to do that in the future by pulling a permit or alerting the town and getting kind of
They have to
permission
pull a
first for
permit.
reimbursement? Would that kind of quell concerns? Put that on the website, notice it? These are the steps you have to go through?
I don't know if it'll get the attention that
Yeah,
would be my concern. I mean, a lot of times, Roy, the people that come for reimbursement generally have already done the work, and then kind of find out after the fact, or would you say it's 50/50? I mean, we haven't done that many in the last couple of years. We've only done 4 or 5. Yeah. Well, yeah. So, I mean, you have a suggestion, Rich? I mean, well, maybe before you, approving this or,
You do. All right, yeah. You're supposed to by law.
Okay, all right, so there we go. So now,
Right.
so, all right, so Rory, let's make a note that whenever anyone goes to the building department or code enforcement department to take out a permit for a sidewalk, that we add something on the permit that triggers Jim or whomever to reach out to Brian to see if that road may be potentially in the queue, and if so, when. And if the person is not taking out a permit, then they're out of luck.
Yeah.
Why don't we,
I
how
mean, that's
about we
clear.
keep
Yeah.
it simple as
There you
that?
go.
Then you have to
Perfect.
enforce that. That's
Is everybody,
Yeah.
For the most part, that process is already in place.
okay. All right, so is everyone comfortable with that?
Something that
covers it, absolutely.
So if they have not taken out a permit, and if we do the road 2 days afterwards, they're out of luck.
Yep.
That makes sense. I think you can go forward, though, and approve this based upon the unique set of factual circumstances.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at the
Oh, yeah,
two,
yeah.
I'm looking at the two separately.
Yeah.
So, all right, so everybody's good with that kind of being our rule going forward? Okay. All right, so then, is there any more discussion? Okay, so with that, then I will entertain a motion that the town of Seymour reimburse Robert VanEgghen $3,000 to pay for the other two-thirds cost of the repair of the sidewalk in front of his home.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so it was, we'll say it was Bob, and Bob made the motion, Karen made the second. Is there any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Thank you very much. So Rory will figure out how we're gonna get the check and everything to you? No, he does not.
That's even better.
Rory, give him the company card. So, actually, my email got hacked today,
We saw that.
and it wasn't hacked? Oh, it was just somebody who used my thing and asked everybody for gift cards. So I'll send you, Rob, all the gift cards I got.
I got one of those at my office today asking if I could transfer money to someplace in
My
California.
email's fine? Oh, okay.
No, it was my LDP asking me if I can, if I was in the office and if we could have him transfer money.
Yeah, so, okay. All right, so Rory, you'll work with Doug to get that. Excellent. Item number 9, discussion take possible action regarding Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee. Okay, in your packets,
Are you sure?
you have two things. Or no, I apologize. This was brought up at our last meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, so we have a letter to the Board of Selectmen, CC to the Seymour Parks from the Friends of the Broad Street Park, and we also have the minutes from their meeting, where they are asking to have their committee dissolved. While looking at the reasons they're using to dissolve the committee, some aren't even true. That's either here nor there. They've asked to have the committee dissolved. So I'll put a motion that we can have discussion, and we'll go from there. So at this point, I'll entertain a motion that the Board of Selectmen dissolve the Friends of the Broad Street Park Committee as recommended by the committee itself.
So moved.
All right, so motion, by who's that, Trish? Anne Marie, second by Stefan, under discussion. Questions, comments, thoughts? Okay. Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained? Chair votes aye, motion passes 7-0. Item number 10, discussion take possible action regarding charter revision. Okay. So, we got a pretty thorough charter revision review at our last meeting with Brian. I also have had some conversations with Rich, just about, general concepts and things. So we had said that we would all kind of digest the information at the last meeting. We would come back this meeting prepared to discuss next steps going forward. So I'd like to do that now, leave this meeting with some type of game plan, and then go from there. I guess I'll kick it off. I think, to be honest, this year we should spend our time working and studying the things that people either voted for, whether it be in the advisory questions or just in the questions themselves, putting them into play. one of the concerns that I had, and I actually talked about that in my Facebook Live, I think we as a town, and I'll take responsibility for that, could have done a better job in promoting just the questions, putting more information out there. So I think that's something that we need to work on. And the concern that I have in putting a charter revision commission together now and voting in November is we're going to get a much smaller population this November than we will November 2020, because it will be a presidential election. And I think we can all agree that that's going to be, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to come out for that election just because who potentially could be running for president. So my opinion would be to work on this, but not hold the vote until November of 2020. So maybe enact the committee at some point in the fall of 2019 to give them a full year to do their job. So that's just my opinion, but I open the floor up for anyone else's comments and thoughts.
I think that's a good idea. I think if we do it this election, it's just a town-wide election. It's not, we've seen what our elections are like when it's a presidential compared to a governor, compared to, just our little town. I think we should wait for the 2020 election. 2020 election.
And my question is, are the same people going to want to serve?
I don't know, number one. Number two, I'm not sure they all could, because there's been some change in status for some of the people. If you recall, when we appointed them, they weren't, Bob as an example, wasn't on an elected board. So now he would count towards that minimum. So I think we'd have to work with Rich on that. A few of those people would have to change, just because I think we would go over that 1/3 rule. I know that some of the members have said to me that if you put a committee back together, they would have interest in serving. But we may have to make some decisions, again, based on elected officials.
Well, I've talked to one person who doesn't want to serve.
Okay, well, we would reach out to each of the people. It would be a new committee. We would do exactly the same thing that we did the last time. We would put that together, it would be brought in front of this board, and we would vote on it like we did the last time, specifically.
So we appoint these people?
Yes,
We do?
Yes.
Okay.
yes. And that one we actually vote on specifically, not like we do the regular appointments where I just put the sheet in front of
Right.
you and you guys kind of
Right.
bless it. The charter revision actually is an item on the agenda, and we discuss it, and we actually vote on that
Okay.
specifically. Yeah, last time. So yeah, that'll be addressed. So if a person is not interested, Roy will reach out to all of the individual folks who are currently on the board. Are you interested, yes or no? And those that say yes, then we'll try to structure another 9-person board based on the constraints of, elected, appointed, all of that. So, it'll be harder this time, quite honestly, because it's getting tougher and tougher to find people who qualify that actually want to serve, because so many people are on so many different boards and commissions.
Well, the other thing is, the one person that I've talked to is totally offended by the fact that their work has not been honored.
Well, that unfortunately is the nature of the beast. We put stuff out to be voted on by the people make the ultimate decision as to what we do and what we can and can't do. So, I feel that person's pain. But that's unfortunately the system that we have. The other alternative would be just to let the 7 of us decide everything, which I might necessarily not be against now.
Well,
I might not like it in
I'm not saying
a year or two when I'm
that.
not here.
What I'm saying is that these people invested their time in working on the revision, and now they feel like their work has not been honored.
Well, I can't really speak to that. We have to talk to the people that voted no.
Just telling you.
Yeah, but there's unfortunately nothing that can be done. So,
Yeah, my only advice is that we can keep as many people that were on the original board if possible, and even if you added a couple new, just so
Yeah.
you maintain the same theme that board was a very good board that came
Oh, I
together.
agree.
We
It
could
was a good group of people,
reissue some
yeah.
of the questions, and, you know, maybe that, give them another chance to kind of reissue the questions a little differently. I think
Mhm.
that would be a good way to solve that problem. Maybe add a couple new people based on, but keep that main players intact if we can.
You know, the one thing that, which I had spoken a little bit about is perhaps we put together a subcommittee of this board to kind of talk about some of the issues that were raised even in the advisory questions, whether it be with term limits, town manager form of government, things like that. And let them spend the next couple months kind of digging into that, doing some research, and then coming back to this board with some suggestions. So that way, when we do, if we decide to have a new charter revision commission, which I think we all want to have, maybe we can give some more specific charges to them this time. Last time, we kind of turned them loose, and gave them a few ideas, but maybe with some of these more specific things. So is there anybody that has any interest in, if we can get 3 people, if that's okay, that want to do that? Any volunteers?
I have some thoughts, irrelevant of the volunteer status
sure,
of
go ahead.
a subcommittee. I thought a lot about this. Probably way too much time thinking about this, honestly. And I've listened to arguments very passionately against forming another charter revision commission. And I've heard arguments for it. To me, I kind of come down on the side of doing it again. I think there's some benefit to striking while the iron is hot, because we had a big issue with people not knowing what charter revision is, not understanding the questions, and just not voting on those questions at all. So I think, to be honest with you, a municipal year is the perfect year to do it, because I think the people that are going to vote in a municipal election are a lot savvier, and they're going to have a better chance of understanding exactly what's on the ballot and doing the research to put the time in and understand it. And I think that it will be fresher in people's memories than if we wait a few years. On the flip side of that, I don't like the idea of doing a charter revision every year. I don't like setting the precedent of doing it every year. I mean, the charter is, an old document, but a living document, but, something that should stand the test of time. But I think we saw, particular, and not just because I was an advocate of the term limit question, but we saw the term limit question, as an advisory question pass, or if it were not advisory, it would have passed about 5-1. So there's clearly, a desire of people to have that question go through. And I think that we saw some things with wordings of questions that we can learn our lesson on. Separating questions out a little bit more could lead to different results. So I think that as tough as it is, and as difficult a decision for me as this is, I think my opinion would be to strike while the iron is hot and reestablish the committee. I would like to ask, do we have any rough estimate or a hard estimate or hard number of how much it cost the town in 2017 to run the commission and put the ballot questions together and bring it to referendum?
I'd have to go back and look. I'd have to go back and look. Specifically, I'm not.
Because that could certainly change
It wasn't-
minds. If it's $100,000,
It wasn't.
That's
It
probably-
wasn't 100,000, but it wasn't cheap.
yeah.
But again, to your point, that's not something you do every year.
Right.
So if you spend 30 or 40,000 on something like that, I think it's money well.
No, definitely, but that's if you're doing it in a cadence of 5-10 years.
Right.
Every year it becomes a burden for sure, which is why I don't like doing it every year. But I think in this particular case, this it might warrant it. That's all. But I'll respect what the majority wants. Obviously.
Karen?
My point is, and not to sound like a high school teacher, which I am, how many people have read the charter?
Oh boy.
7 of us, probably
Yeah.
4.
How many?
How
How many people know what's even in the charter?
I would say the vast majority of residents have no idea what the charter is. Have never seen it. Have never had a use for it.
I did the numbers. Only about 85 to 88% of people even voted on those questions that came out to vote. So not even 100% voted, and how many of those people, I can tell you at least 1,000 of them were uninformed because those people voted no on changing grammar.
But
Of that,
how can you vote?
All right, mark the time, because we had the over-under on how long it would take them to get there.
But you
I'm sorry,
bring,
Cliff?
you're,
How can you vote on something you don't know anything about?
It's,
but you're bringing up a good point, and that's why when we say maybe to do it in the following year, we also got to communicate, because there's two
Right.
pieces to this. It's not just the charter itself and the changes, it's communicating what's out there, because I think that's another gap area, that not enough people understand what it does for us and why it's there. So,
But I mean, if you asked a resident of this town what the term limit is for Kurt,
they wouldn't know.
would they know the answer?
no. Oh, absolutely not. Absolutely not.
I just want to say, in terms of getting the message out on a charter revision, all municipalities are limited in what you can do by statute. You can do certain posters, you can do certain kinds of things. You can't spend money, if you will, promoting
Right.
a certain position on the charter revision. question.
Now that you bring that up,
It's not a position, though, it's just the fact that we have one. I think that.
That you can do.
Yeah, that's what I mean, that's
But-
what I'm
but-
trying to drive
information
to.
versus
The
advocating.
information, yeah.
You cannot advocate, but you really have to do it in accordance with
one of the
state statute, what it allows you to do. And it doesn't allow you to do a whole lot, to be honest with you.
as
So-
elected officials as
As
a town.
elected officials and using town funds.
However, if we formed a PAC, the PAC could provide a different kind of information out to the residents.
I'm not giving that advice.
Right. But I mean, so again, that's something that could be done. There could be, and not a.
Yeah, but I think
not
you
partisan.
saying that you were forming a PAC is probably something you don't want to.
No, I know, but I'm
don't
saying
wanna
that
do.
something could be formed. I'm not saying it would be me, but I'm saying, yeah.
As a non-lawyer, I still think
Well, I'm not
I advise you not to do that.
Yeah, no PACs, but,
you the advice I give everyone, don't be the treasurer.
yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Tell me about it.
It's the worst position there is. So, all right.
Sucker born all the time.
So any other comments or thoughts? Right, so I think at this point, is it the board's pleasure to wait until 2020? Or to look to put something together in 2019? Or would you rather I get the numbers of the costs? Savon, bring that back to the February 5th meeting?
That's my preference.
Okay,
Yeah.
so Rich, can you find out what, Mr. Yeah, what the cost was, but, so figure it was probably $300 or $400 every meeting, plus research time. They did, what, 2 or 3 meetings a month?
Yeah, we were, yeah.
So I bet you we're probably in the $25,000 or $30,000 range, I would venture to guess. So,
Is lower, believe it or not, than some others.
oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. Okay, so Rory will make a note for that. Thank you. Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item number 11. The discussion take possible action regarding capital plan. Here is the capital plan as it stood as of this morning. Everybody should have that in front of them.
Yep.
And it's broken out over the next 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years for you, even though it says forecasted 5-year total. As of this morning, we have $441,815 in requests for the upcoming fiscal year. In total, we have $2,032,345 in requests over the 6-year period, with roughly $1.8 million to spend. So, I'd like everybody to kind of digest this list, and then make some recommendations back as to what you like, what you don't like. I'll be able to talk in some detail about each one of the requests. If you'd like to do that now, we can. Is there anything that jumps off the page?
You saw these oil tank renewal fund of $10,000.
Mm-hmm. The oil tank removal fund is just a fund we create. We put money aside so there's money available if we need to start taking oil tanks out. We probably have about, we have about $50,000 or $60,000 in the fund currently. My goal is to put away $10,000 a year. So if we have to do this, we have a pool of money available to do so. The biggest pressing issue, I guess I'll use, every single thing that is on this capital list is something that has been discussed or I've been made aware of over the last couple years. The only thing that has kind of come out of left field is the mobile radios for the fire department. This essentially just came up within the last few weeks. So we're still working on that. These numbers have actually come down. They've been reworking the numbers, doing some different things. This was the firefighters themselves putting a package together. They really didn't include Rob Dyer, Tom Amy, a few other people. So they're going back through and kind of sharpening these numbers a little bit.
So that's accurate, though, that they are requesting $119,000 per year for 5 years?
It is, based on the current proposal that they gave me from Norcom, that was the funding option. It was a lease purchase. It would be $519,000 a year for 5 years.
Does that explain why there's no forecasted 5-year total on the right side? Because
Yeah, I just didn't total.
You haven't? Okay.
Yeah, I haven't totaled it out yet.
Okay.
And a new fire marshal's vehicle.
Yes, that was put in by Deputy Fire Marshal Willis did the budget this year, and he looked out over the next 3 years and identified some potential capital needs. The truck is, I believe it's 6 years old now, so it's starting to get a little bit tired. This may not even be addressed by the capital plan. We have the 3-year program where we're buying 3 new trucks every year for town hall, so that may just be consumed by that. But again, I want to try to put as much on here as I possibly can.
I mean, out of curiosity, with the fire marshal vehicle, is there like a bevy of special equipment that vehicle needs that would, make it cost that much money?
It is about 16,000, if memory serves me correct, of additional equipment.
And it has to be some sort of like souped up SUV?
No. No, I believe Paul, the current fire marshal, has an Escape.
Because 55,000 seems like a preposterous number.
Yeah,
for
that's-
that vehicle. To be honest.
That's everything in it. I mean, that's
That's everything, lettering and
that's
all
everything.
the radios and.
Lights, sirens, all the toys that go with it. So, again, that's the number they put in. I know the Explorer that we have for the town was $36,006.
Not to sound like a Scrooge,
I
but
feel-
we gotta tighten.
Yeah, I feel like I could make an argument that everybody doesn't need an Explorer.
Well,
also,
We gotta
but-
tighten our belts, so we can tighten them. These,
No, listen, that's just what he put in. I'm not.
No, I don't. No, I'm just.
Understood.
I just wanted to know if there was something that I was missing.
No, there was 2. It's the cost of the
surprised we didn't
truck
get
and
it.
then the cost of
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't have any reason to believe that he's trying to, game the system or anything. I have no reason whatsoever to believe that. It's just
gotta dial them back.
it's surprising.
Well, I mean, everything's purchased off of the state bid list, and the emergency service personnel need SUVs because they need to carry their equipment. So Tim has all his fire equipment in there as well. Yeah. So,
So will we be getting rid of one of the fire marshal's vehicles then?
we would get rid of the red Escape in this plan because the other one that Tim currently drives is 2 years old. Right? 2 years old, Roy? Yeah. It's relatively new. Tim's is the black one, Paul's is the red one.
Right.
The community service bus, is that a 4-year plan, or why is it with 4?
That's just the cost broken out over 4 years.
4 years? Okay, that you're gonna have to start this year?
If we did it this year.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the bus that takes everybody, that picks up the seniors and brings them to wherever they need to go?
It's a bigger bus. It's 29 passengers, handicap accessible. It gets used. The bus is, I can make an argument to have the 2 buses running at this point. One for kind of shopping and pickups and things, and then one for trips. So, current bus does not have air conditioning.
Okay.
So that sometimes is a problem on trips in the summer.
Could be.
So, I can tell you the most, I guess, detail-oriented is Public Works.
Of course it is.
Tony DePrimo gave me a packet on every single thing that he asked for, data to back up the specific reasons why he needs each piece of equipment. So, there's some value there. The Gas Boy software, where it says no tanks or pumps, that one is still open for discussion with emergency management. The thought is to potentially, instead of doing it at the Public Works Garage, do it at Great Hill Hopes, because then we can just bring in actual new tanks, get everything set up there, and then the next year do Public Works, because we're going to need to shut the fueling station down for some time while we do this process. So. Oh, and Brian, just while you're here, the front parking lot for the police, 35,000, as the chief gave me his capital request on a napkin, so there's not a lot of data attached with that, but he was supposed to talk to you about that. You don't have to, it's okay, just as long as he talks to you at some point. It's for 2 years out. Yeah, it's for 2 years out, so it's not a priority. So. I'm sure you do. So, anything else? Any other questions, thoughts? Oh, yeah, good times. Good times. Okay. So with that, we'll close item number 11, mercifully. And we'll move on to item number 12, executive session. We have two issues. One, real estate transaction, which is 100 Prospect Street, and litigation, which is Stratford versus Purdue Pharmaceuticals. At this point, I'll entertain a motion that we go into executive session at 8:34 p.m. and that we invite Town Council Richard Paterla into executive session with us after his comment.
I would just like to point out that the basis for the executive session on 100 Prospect Street is the potential sale of town-owned property. And if the discussion were held in public, it might materially affect the price. So that's the purpose of the executive session, and the other is pending litigation.
Yes. Excellent. Thank you very much. So all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Chair votes aye.
I'll make a motion. I didn't hear a
I
second.
made the motion. You need a
I'll second.
Oh, Alan Stefan. Sorry.
Great, you think we can make it a little chillier?
It is
Can we knock the
freezing.
temperature down a couple of degrees?
I mean,
It's
I'm all
cold
for
in
saving
here.
money for the town, obviously.